April 23rd, 2019, Calvin Castine at the official headquarters for the North Country Honor Flight. And we're talking to two very, very important people in that North Country Honor Flight. And we're going to find out who they are, and then we're going to find out what the North Country Honor Flight is. Because every once in a while, somebody is tuning in and never heard of the North Country Honor Flight. As difficult as that is to believe.
It is hard to believe, but it's true.
There are some people. So we'll start with the elder statesman here. Barrie Finnegan.
Barrie Finnegan, I'm the executive director of the North Country Honor Flight, and we're looking forward to another fantastic season.
All right, North Country native.
North Country native, born and raised in Keysville. Moved around a little bit, ended up back here in Plattsburgh about 10 years ago, and luckily ran into the honor flight and got a chance to get involved and been heavily involved since.
Yeah, I see you once in a while. Once in a while, Barrie will show up.
Yeah, well, you know, we have so many volunteers. It's hard for me to do that because I'd like to spread that out, especially with some of our newer people on board. I'd like to start spreading that around and get people out instead of me.
Just for their benefit, right?
Well, for the benefit of Honor Flight.
And get you-
Everything we do, we sit down and we try to decide what's best for North Country Honor Flight.
And catch your breath once in a while.
Yep, not very often. We keep waiting for that. Okay, now we got a break. We say that every fall going into the winter, and it's just as busy during the winter. So we have so many people involved, so many people looking out for us, doing fundraisers and doing promotions, schools. It's pretty much a non-stop program at this point.
Yeah, 24/7, 365.
Yep.
Except next year will be 366.
Oh, great.
An extra day of work next year. And speaking of one of those relatively new guys, here is we have one right next to us here, the flight leader. How long you been involved, sir?
So, formally, I've been involved in honor flight for the last maybe 4 or 5 years, and then Barrie provided the opportunity to become a flight leader. We sat down at McSweeney's, a fitting place, and he and I had a really good conversation. One might say that he talked me into it, but it was really one of those very easy conversations because it's such a wonderful program.
And who are you?
Michael Cashman. So, and I'm really appreciative to be the flight leader for flight number 27. Yeah.
So you went on flight 26 as the assistant.
I did. Yep. Scott was the flight leader for that. I had a chance to kind of tag along with him a little bit, and working with Bill Schwartz. He's the assistant flight leader on this flight, and then he'll be the flight lead on flight 28. I think there's a really nice kind of transition that occurs between the mentorship and taking people under their wing. Pun intended, and to just kind of continue to transition that way. Yeah.
All right. So now we got to find out what the heck the North Country Honor Flight is. Who's going to?
I'm going to tap Barrie. He's been doing it a lot longer.
Well, yeah. North Country Honor Flight originally started back in 2013, and at that time there was already honor flights across the country. It started actually in 2005. The whole premise was the World War II Memorial never opened until 2004. The average age of a World War II veteran at that time was already 84 years old. So they never got a chance to go during the prime of their life or when they could actually go on their own and see it. And there was a lot of World War II veterans out there that needed some help to get to go down and see the memorial, which was built in their honor. So a group of people got together and got the whole thing started out in Springfield, Illinois. And next thing you know, everybody's looking at it going, wow, what a great idea. And hubs started popping up around the country, and somebody decided to organize. So now there's a headquarters for the National Honor Flight, who kind of oversees all honor flight hubs, which there is 135 hubs now across the country. We are one of the smallest, which has its advantages. We get to know each and every veteran that's on our flight rather closely, and our saying is our flights don't end on a runway. we continue contact with the veterans, and we have many events that they're welcome to come to, and we keep them pretty active. Some guys, we actually wear them out. They go to so many events, but they love it, and we become family. It's one big, huge family. So, we're still going with the World War II guys. We've actually got 4 on this first flight, and the Korean guys are starting to show up. We had a lull where we didn't have any Korean vets on hand on application-wise. So now we're starting to get more Korean vets. And of course, we've decided that Vietnam vets deserve to go probably more than anybody. The reception they got when they got home and the whole turmoil of the Vietnam War was not their fault. We can't change what happened to them back then, but we can make sure they realize that those sentiments are not still alive, that we appreciate them just as much as a World War II or a Korean veteran.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pendulum. World War II, there's no question that those people came back as heroes. They didn't have a monument built, but it was the World War, and they came back as heroes. Korean War was always known as the Forgotten War. So those people came back, and okay, you're back home. But then you got the other side of that pendulum, the people in Vietnam, and they came back. There were so many anti-war. I don't know anybody who was. I've dealt with a lot of military people. I don't know anybody who's really pro-war.
Right.
Right. But and I grew up in that era of the anti-war people, and there are some very belligerent people out there that you figure you're anti-war. Why are you being so obnoxious?
Right.
If you want to get along with everybody, start with getting along with these veterans who are coming home.
And it had nothing to do with them. They were serving their country, like I say, just like the World War II and the Korean guys. They signed on the dotted line, putting their life on the line every day. That one phone call from the front line to wherever they served. And, of course, we look at all veterans the same because of that. They were one phone call away from being on the front line. And if they were ready to go, then they deserved to go on an honor flight. And those people, as they came back, people just forgot that they were our soldiers. They didn't want to be there. Nobody signed up to go to Vietnam. They signed up to protect their country. Their defense of their country was their number one, and it still is today. And people understand it now. Back then they didn't. We just signed up a Korean veteran 2 days ago, and he had a son that was a Vietnam veteran. And the Vietnam veteran was telling me about when he got back to Seattle airport, the horrible treatment in the airport, about getting spit on and yelled at and called every name in the book. And it was just a horrible, horrible situation. And we realized that, like I say, that's why we decided Vietnam veterans deserve it as much as anybody, if not more.
Yeah, and that's the ironic thing, though. They come back to these people who are preaching peace and love, and they treat our veterans that way. So,
Well, one of the reasons that I got involved in this program a number of years ago was certainly the Greatest Generation, but anybody that starts to participate in the honor flight programs and volunteers and fundraising and stuff is you gain a deeper understanding, a deeper respect.
Yes.
Folks that are attracted to these programs already appreciate our veterans. But there is so many stories that you learn. And my grandfather was a Korean vet. He stayed stateside. He didn't talk much about his service, but I know that it killed him that he never went overseas. He was a trainer. And you talk with a lot of our veterans that, many of them have to be coached into going because they feel like, well, I'm not a hero. I was just doing what my country asked of me,
right.
and stepping up. So going back to the Greatest Generation, to the men and women that are serving now too, we need to remind people all generations demand our respect and gratitude for what they've laid on the line and what they continue to do, and that's, I think, a hallmark of what honor flight is about.
one of the saddest thing that is going on right now is, and I just heard it within the last few months, the numbers are still there. 4 or 5 of our new veterans are taking their own lives every day of the week. 4 or 5, and you look at the relatively, compared to World War II, the number of people that served, a relatively
Mhm.
smaller number. That percentage-wise, that's horrible. I mean, 1 a year would be one too many,
Yeah.
but 4 or 5 a day of these people coming back, we've certainly let them down, I think, too.
My sister-in-law is a Marine, as they say, once a Marine, always a Marine. She's no longer active, but she and I have had many conversations about the VA and things. And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but the one thing that I think we can all agree upon is things need to change.
Yeah.
We need to do better for our veterans, and there are a lot of things that are holding us back to be able to do that, and we need to just keep pushing and educating the public and demanding more from folks.
It seems like they're starting to get on it a little bit. You see more research and analysis going on. A lot of times it seems like it's a totally different setup. It's a totally different war. It's a different kind of war. And from what I've seen lately, it seems like they're starting to hone in on, possible causes of the PTSD.
Mhm.
Not only the multiple deployments, there's some people over there been back there 6, 7, and 8 times, and they're not 6-month deployments. They're there for a year and come back for a short time and go right back.
Well, I think it's part of their PTSD is the fact that they feel they need to be there. So that's one of the reasons they are going back. They actually in some aspect feel more there than they do when they're back
Yep.
home, and then
You lose perspective on how to interact with normal life. Your military life, you're trained to do that. You're living that, and then all of a sudden you don't have that, and that's what they seek out. So it all seems part of the solution. Let's hope they put all the pieces together quick, because like you say, it's happening far too many times, and right here in our own backyard happens quite often, unfortunately.
or they don't necessarily deliberately take their own lives, but they get involved with drugs and stuff that end up having the same effect.
Yeah, my background's in counseling, and it's tough for people to ask for help already. And then, when it's kind of ingrained in you that you can do everything on your own. But yeah, we need to provide more mental health counseling. We need to get our hands grasped around the opioid epidemic, which is impacting, everybody. Sometimes it's not even the veteran that's dealing with it, but it could be somebody in their family, and then that's being compounded with the PTSD that
Yep.
they're facing.
Yep.
So there's a lot of complex issues that we're facing right now.
It's not a simple
No,
one-step procedure
no.
to fix the
Yeah,
whole
so
thing.
just a light switch, you
But,
can turn it on and on,
yeah.
it'd be easy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they make some progress, because it seems like they're heading in the right direction
Yeah.
anyway.
But, tying it back to Honor Flight, I think one of the most powerful things that I've seen in this entire program is when you get to do a home visit with some of our veterans, and to see a veteran and their guardian, who a lot of times is one of their children, open up for the first time about what their experience is. Maybe they shared a story or two, but to really dive deep and talk about what it was to serve, or what it was like to be drafted, or what it was like to be just married and then leave their spouse and their kids behind. I mean, that's a powerful experience. And then when they go on the flight, and to be in the footprint of these beautiful monuments in their honor, and to see that exchange, you can't help but to shed a tear. I mean, it is a beautiful thing, and that often opens up a whole new level of that relationship between those two.
It's awesome, some of the stories that come out, and numerous times I've been at a table interviewing a veteran, and he'll start telling a story, and all of a sudden the son or the daughter, whoever else is next to us, will look over and say, "I've never heard that story." And they just, honor flight comes into the room long before we get there.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's us,
Yeah.
it's because they understand honor flight is there because they want to hear these stories.
Yeah.
We're gonna show them a great day, and we're going way out of our way to make sure that they are showing the gratitude that this country has for them.
Mm.
So the stories start flowing, and oh my gosh, it's just amazing what some of these people went through. And, even the PTSD thing, I mean, that was termed recently, but we've talked to a lot of World
Shell
War II
shock.
veterans.
Yeah, it's had a lot of
Shell
different names
shock,
over the years.
We've got people that still jump out of bed at, 3 o'clock in the morning. They just jump right up in the middle of the night because something's coming back to them.
Yeah.
The dreams never leave them. And some of the stuff in World War II, you don't hear a lot of that. Now in this day of 24-hour news, everything is up front and everything's on the table. You didn't hear about as we're island hopping over the Pacific and they ran out of soldiers, so they go to the school and give the kids rifles and tell them to go get the Americans. And here's Americans, they're coming at them with rifles. What do you do?
Gotta defend yourself.
It's a tough decision to make, and that I've seen that stick with a lot of the
Well, of
veterans
course it's
that were
gonna-
over there.
It's gonna stick with you, yeah.
And, you got a 12-year-old girl running at you with a rifle.
Yeah.
Not pleasant.
No, and I gotta point out for the people who may not understand the terminology, you're saying these veterans with their guardians. Explain.
Sure. So
Yeah, let's go back.
No, that's great. So a guardian really is an individual that is either an assigned volunteer or somebody that they have a relationship with. It could be their son, their daughter, a dear friend, and they are kind of the escort to the veteran the entire trip. And they're there to work with them individually.
Yeah, so make sure that, not everybody is in their 90s that goes.
Yep.
You get now
Yeah.
the Vietnam era, so they may not need somebody to help them around, but you get somebody in their 90s, and most people would appreciate that little extra help. So that
Absolutely.
guardian is what
Yep.
that is.
Yep.
I didn't want people to get the wrong concept of what a guardian was
Basically,
here.
whatever that veteran needs, that guardian is there to get it for them.
Yeah.
There's very little that they need outside of what's provided for them through the day. We've done this enough where we pretty much know what they're gonna need, what they're gonna run into. And it's very little that they should need apart from what we have. So, the guardian pushing the veteran in a wheelchair too, sometimes we do that for ease of movement. Like when we get to the World War II Memorial,
Sometimes you gotta,
we get out and it's a system, yeah.
hurry.
Those chairs are out and the veterans get in the chairs. Sometimes they don't like it.
Yeah.
But, then we all go in together and it keeps that uniformity together and it speeds things up quite a bit.
And then on the other hand, there's some veterans that really do like the idea of their kid pushing them around for the day. I got one guy on my trip already that he's already getting the snapping down.
payback.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, you've got 4 World War II veterans going
Yep.
this time, and all the rest Korean on this first trip?
No, we've got 4 World War II veterans. We've got Korean, Cold War, and then the rest will be Vietnam veterans.
Okay.
So, but a
The
full
Cold-
flight.
The Cold War is the period between Korea and
Yep.
Vietnam?
Yep.
And how
There is
about-
actually,
And post-Vietnam?
the Cold War actually got extended between
Yes.
World War II and Korea. There's that period of 5 years.
6 days?
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
No, it wasn't.
But, yeah, there is some, and those are considered Cold War veterans as well, because that's where, the communism thing started ramping up.
Yeah.
And we also had a number of folks that were either, one individual that I can think of off the top of my head was drafted, and he stayed in, for almost a career. So we have a number of people that, were career military too.
Okay. We hear some rattling on our door. I think we'll take
There's a ghost behind that door over there that every
Okay.
once in a while she'll rake her hands down the metal. This
Okay.
is an old air base.
We're in the conference room here, but it's a multi-purpose conference room, so other
Yeah.
people might be wanting to confer, so we may have to take a break. If not, we'll just keep going. So, so you're looking for basically all veterans right now, right?
we are at that point where we're going to hope to continue to beat the bushes and find as many World War II people as we can. And the Korean guys also, like I say, we actually were at a point where we didn't have any Korean veterans, but now that's starting to come back. So the word is getting out that we want to finish up with all the Korean veterans in the North Country. And then we're just going to keep moving through the Vietnam guys and get as many as possible.
Cold War.
Our biggest issue right now is illness. You know, the World War II veterans, as up there in age as they were, we established a certain procedure, and it was rather easy to deal with. The guardians, being family members, usually knew how to handle each individual veteran, and then we did what we could do to make sure everything was safe and sound. And now we're running into the Vietnam guys, and of course the Agent Orange was just rampant, and so many people are affected by that, and we're getting so many different illnesses. And unfortunately, it's something that, you know, it doesn't give you a whole lot of notice when things are turning south. We're finding veterans that you know, they got notified something was real bad, and then 3 months later they're gone. Just happened this week. We had a veteran lined up to go, and he didn't make it. He passed away a couple days ago, and the funeral's tomorrow. Unfortunately, I think we're going to run into that more and more, and it puts us in a tough spot because we do have, you know, some of the Korean guys are up in their 90s now. Some of the Vietnam guys, some of the older guys, 85, 86 years old. And then you throw in the people that are really sick, and we don't ever like to take a chance on not getting them down there because of illness. So building a flight is it's a work of art. We
Well, and sometimes last minute type of cancellations where somebody can't go, and
yep.
I know you've called people and said, get out of the shower, you're going today. We got an opening.
5:30 in the morning. Mr. LaFontaine, could you please come down to Plattsburgh? Actually, wait there. We're going to send a New York State trooper up to get you. And 12 minutes later, he was in Champlain, pulling the guy out, putting him in a car. So, yeah, rather than lose a seat, our seats are so valuable. I don't think you could ever put a price on them. We're thinking of trying to get more seats.
Because you no longer, originally you had a small plane, now you've got a larger plane that's going down.
Yeah, we were locked in, before we were locked into about 30 seats, and now we've got some flexibility with that. What we're trying not to do is outgrow our program. You know, it's very tempting to get 50 seats and send 25 to 30 veterans.
And you got 1 or 2 flights a year instead of 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But the other part to it is we have such a high touch with our program too, is that we're able to make it personal. You know, we've had a conversation that some of these other honor flight programs are bringing 100+ veterans at a time,
Right.
and their ceremony has to be so abbreviated. The things that they're doing for the veterans are just a lot different.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
able to build that relationship. Could we grow a little bit? I think we're there, but I don't think we ever want to get to the hundreds. So
Well, no, because then you'd be done.
You lose top. Yeah,
You
exactly.
wouldn't have the
Yeah,
flow.
we could be finished in
You can't-
next year. We
Yeah,
could
you
wrap
can't
this whole
take a
thing
year
up.
off and then expect to come back the
Yeah,
following year, because
right.
all of a sudden more veterans show up.
Right.
You've got to keep that line going.
And we go through our schedule with a fine-tooth comb. We really do analyze it, and we try to find time. We try to make sure that we have enough time at the memorials.
Yeah.
Of course, that's one of the more important things. But, you know, you throw in the dinners and then the travel time. Our ceremony, I think our ceremony is top-notch compared to a lot of the hubs across the country. We do get personal, and we explain what each veteran did before they get on the flight. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff other people can't do. So we don't want to get into 25 or 30 veterans because we don't have time for that. We've got to be on that plane at 9:30. And we've got to get through TSA. We're flying commercial. We got to go through TSA. It's an abbreviated version. They don't go through us as thoroughly, but it's still a process that has to take place. So timing is important. So if we started getting too big, we'd lose that timing and lose that personal touch, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, right now with the World War II veterans, the war ended in 1945. If somebody was 18 in 1945, they would have been born in 1927. That'd make them 92 this year. And then the Korean War, was it 53 that ended? I'm not quite
50 to 55 is considered the
55,
war. Yep.
not that long. So, if you were 18 in 55, well, you'd be into your 80s now. You'd be 82 in 50.
Yep.
You know, just exactly 10 years after World War II. So, these people are not young for the most part. You know, the youngest person in Korea would be roughly 82 years old.
82, yep.
Yeah. So, there's always that urgency to get these people, give them priority.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 flights this year, is that?
4 flights this year, yep. We're gonna try to increase our seats as we go throughout the year. We're up to 34, and then we might go to 36, and we'll see how that all works out with our timing.
So
And,
May
you know, if we
18th?
get every extra veteran we get on a flight is one less that we have to worry about, especially with the illness factor
Mhm.
now. Our worst fears is having somebody not make it, so we're gonna try our best to eliminate it. We know we can't, but we'll try our best.
All right, so you got May 18th, then
18th.
June what?
22nd,
June 22nd,
September 7th, and October 12th.
September 7th, is that Labor Day weekend?
I believe it was,
I don't think.
boy, good question.
It's a Saturday.
I'll look that up while you talk about it. It usually is, and
I think it was last year, I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
think it
Labor Day
was.
weekend. yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, because we've had the conversation that it could be a problem, as far as the holiday. No, we're the following weekend after Labor Day.
It's tough though, because I mean, even for the May 18th flight, you know, that's Friday night is community college's graduation, Saturday is SUNY
Nurses.
Plattsburgh's
And
graduation.
the
I mean,
nurses at Clinton.
exactly. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's always something in conflict. But that's why we work with our veterans to find a date that works.
And June
you know, for
22nd,
them.
a lot of high school graduations
yep.
at that time of
Yep.
year, so,
Yep.
and that's,
Our plus is 7 o'clock in the morning. There's not a whole lot of activity going on. We find most people can come to the send-off ceremony and then still make whatever else they have to go to.
Yeah.
A little bit of a rush sometimes, but not a.
yeah, that May 18th, I'll be covering the Clinton graduation, the honor flight, and then the nurses' graduation
Oh my
after the honor
gosh.
flight. So it works out.
Yeah, yeah. The timing is on our side there. What we miss and we still hope to improve on is our return home. With the new airline, it's sooner than it used to be. It used to be we never got home till 10:30 at night, and now we're getting back. They just changed the flight to 7:15 departure from Dulles Airport, so that's going to get us home about 8:45.
But that also shortens your time in Washington though, doesn't it?
No, that expands it.
Expands it.
We're actually
Even though you
leaving.
came back later before?
Before, we did lose some time that way,
Yeah,
but yeah, we just got a change in itinerary that we're getting an extra 45 minutes down in Washington.
that'll
So
help.
it'll help. We're getting back to where we were, and last year with SkyWest, it actually worked out great schedule-wise. We didn't short anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
Having that extra 45 minutes this year is going to help. A little more relaxing for dinner time. That was our big crunch. We didn't know what to do. When we get back to the airport, of course, getting through TSA again, you want to get in, make sure that's over with, and then we eat inside the secured area. So we'll have a little bit more time to kick back and relax before we have to actually get on the flight.
Having the police escort down in DC certainly helps us get around.
Calvin's seen that,
Judy is still, talk about your waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
eh? Yeah.
She's still waking up saying,
Hard to
do it.
believe something
Yeah.
that big can get through such a small hole, right?
Yeah, yeah, Park Services is fantastic.
well, that's the bus ride. What
Oh,
happens in
gosh.
DC, stays in DC.
Yeah.
Except for the dreams.
Yes. Okay, so you got, how close to being full right now are your flights?
Full.
They're
Yeah,
full.
we're struggling. You know, you get down to the point where you've got a couple of Korean veterans that are 85, 86 years old, and a couple of guys that just had a kidney transplant or whatnot, going through chemo of some sort. And you basically got to decide, how healthy is the 85-year-old? Is this something that, if he's slipping? So you got to call and you got to talk to the family members and find out the best info you can, and hope you make the right choice.
Do you leave yourself any leeway in the later flights in the year, just in case all of a sudden a World War II veteran shows up out of nowhere, or a Korean veteran?
What we've developed is we leave 2 or 3 spots open on each flight, and we fill them probably 2 or 3 months ahead of time. We're working on the flights, so we can have 12, 14 veterans ready to go.
Okay.
Hey, how we doing? Come on, sit down. We need some input.
Pull up a chair.
So as we go, we try to analyze each of that, and then we do have room if a last minute World War II vet steps up. 1 month ahead of time, and this is what changed with the new airline with SkyWest. We have to submit a list of all the people that are getting tickets 30 days ahead of time.
So you can't change it the last minute? How about
We
that
can-
guy that gets the call at 5 o'clock in the morning when he's showering?
We can. We get 1 change per ticket, but we're trying to comply with the new regulations as well as possible. Michael just went through this 3 days ago. Getting that list together sometimes isn't as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, but I mean, if I want to take a flight to Washington DC, I don't have to tell them a month ahead of time that I'm going to Washington.
Absolutely. It's kind of an odd situation. They hold our reservation, and for some reason, once we submit those names, that's when the payment takes place. So just yesterday, all the tickets were paid for this flight, and we're happy about that, and we got our names in on time. Like I say, it's flexible as far as we can change a name or two, but we try to keep it as uniform as possible. If we can send in that list and that's the final list, great. But we know there's going to be changes. There always is.
Yeah, and sometimes
So.
people come out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
what is your name, young lady?
Well, Pauline
Pauline?
Stone.
Are you new to the honor flight?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I've been here since probably day 1 almost.
Have you had the honor of going to Washington yet?
Oh, definitely. I've been down
Several times?
about 4 times.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, because it's quite an adventure. Interesting is a word.
Oh my.
I think the best time was when it was closed, when the memorials were closed. I was flight leader on that, and that was really, really unbelievable. It was great.
Great,
It was
because they were
great.
closed?
No, it was great because of the way the people saw the veterans and talked to the veterans, and we were going to the Iwo Jima Memorial. And of course, we went this way with the bus, and it was blocked off with one of those cement, things, barricades, so we couldn't go around. So the man behind there, the policeman said, go up to the top where, it was, go to the top, there's people waiting for you up there. I said, who's waiting for a bus from Plattsburgh there? So we went up around, and there was a police car here and a police car here. We pulled a bus in between. There were about 45 to 50 combat vet motorcycle waiting for us. We put the veterans in their wheelchairs, and they brought them down that steep hill so they could see the memorial.
Wow.
And then when I was on my way back, there was a man mowing, and of course it's acres and acres, and he was mowing with a push lawnmower. So I went up to him, he was young, maybe 25 or 30 years. I said, don't they give you a riding lawnmower to do this? He says, oh no, he says, it's closed. He says, I'm doing this on my own.
Really?
So he says, I said,
That's
well,
back during
thank
the
you.
government
Yeah,
shutdown.
shutdown, yeah.
that,
Yep, and I said, well, thank you. He says, don't thank me. He says, when you get back to that bus, he says, you thank them. He said, and the whole day was like that. It was great. It was
Wow.
great.
Wow.
We actually had the combat vets on call because they had closed the memorials and also brought in barricades, which seems funny that they're going to close these open air memorials which require nothing. It took manpower and money to bring those barricades in to shut people out.
Yeah.
Totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
If we needed bolt cutters or we needed those barricades removed, we had people to do it.
Yeah.
So we were not getting denied access to that memorial.
And Tom Brokaw said on the news, he said, they went into Normandy. He said, you think they're gonna keep them out of the memorials? No way.
True.
No, that was quite a day.
It was unbelievable, yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things we have to talk about. One is, you still need veterans. And you're shaking the bushes and stuff, but there's people out there you're not finding. Who do people contact if they are a veteran or they know a veteran? Sometimes they may not want to approach that person, but they want you to approach that person.
And we'd be glad to. We've got a lot of people that would jump right in and contact our veterans. We try our best to get out there and do it by word of mouth. Probably the easiest way is nchonorflight.org is our website. You can go on there, download the applications, you can contact any of us. Our phone numbers are on there. Be glad to answer any phone calls. That's probably the quickest way. My number is 518-569-7429. Call me anytime. I'd be glad to line a veteran up. And the thing that people sometimes don't think of is if you go out of your way that little bit to go find that veteran, when this thing is done and he's been on his honor flight, he'll never forget that you're the one that signed him up, that got this whole thing in motion. And you can never do a better favor for anybody in the world than this.
Him or her.
Correct.
Or her.
Yep.
We have
And we actually have a female on this flight
Do we?
as well.
Just one?
Yep, just one right now. Veteran.
Okay.
We have multiple females on
We
the
have
plane.
two female veterans on the next flight.
Oh.
So, yeah, they're coming out of the woodwork.
And I suppose you have all the volunteers you need, right? You don't need any more volunteers to help out?
If anybody comes along, I'll give them half of whatever I do right now. I'm sure Michael will give them half the flight leader duties.
Well,
Yeah, it's always, we've got a well-oiled machine, I say. Everybody's got a spot and everybody does their job. And there's certain things you don't worry about whatsoever. Things are taken care of. There's many pieces to this whole big puzzle, but we've got some great people that take care of things. A lot of people behind the scenes, you never see them, hear about them, unfortunately. I wish I could take them all and put them up on a huge podium and give them all the Medal of Honors, but it doesn't work that way. So there's people that behind the scenes that make this whole thing work, but we always do need help. So yeah, the same thing on the website. You can sign up to be a volunteer, or our meetings are the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month down at the VFW in Keysville. We have a nice little light supper at 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock the meeting starts. So more than welcome to stop in, check it out. Come on down and listen to a meeting or two, and
Or come to an honor flight and
come to an honor flight. Yep.
get the bug.
Grab anybody, the white hats or the flight leader hats, grab somebody in an honor flight hat and ask them, and they'll be glad to help you out with any information you need. So yeah, we're always looking for volunteers.
I know Michael said that after this time, he's done. He's done his part. He's not doing anymore. He's flight leader. He's
No,
reached the top.
I've been trying to figure that out, how I'm gonna get a hook and keep him here.
No, I'll tell you right now, on a very personal level, from my grandfather to my sister-in-law, I'm in this for the long term, and I'd be participating whether I was a flight leader or not, and it really is an honor to be able to work with these individuals, and to both of Pauline and to Barrie and the entire executive group. There are a lot of nonprofits out there where the executive group, might get stipends and various things. This is a volunteer organization. That itself is incredible. The army of people that come out, that lend their time and their talents through the entire process, and they take on a lot of responsibility. The amount of hours that I've been putting in for it, I know are just doubled by the times that Barry's doing, and we're texting and calling each other, and Pauline and the entire group. It's a really, Barry really did put it best, once you're in, you're part of the family. You really are part of the
Well,
family.
we look at it this way, look what the veterans have done for us.
Yeah.
It's the least we can do.
Yeah.
No,
You know,
it's,
It's because of them we're free, so.
I've always told people, I'm always willing to do the least I can do. So I guess I'm on board with it. So this is the least we can do, count me in.
you know, and there is times where it's kind of a business, and there's time, it's crunch time, it's time to go. And, we have developed a program that we don't accept second best, we don't accept, you know, a little bit of effort. We expect the best out of everybody, and that's the way it comes out. And every one of our veterans will tell you that. We're most happy at the end of the day when a veteran will come back and say, boy, you guys didn't forget anything. And it's just that's a huge statement and a huge compliment to all our volunteers, because there's so many pieces that people don't realize that this program has. Not being any kind of federal funding, any government funding, we do get small pieces here and there, Clinton County legislators, Essex County legislators, little pieces here and there, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, we're basically funded by that person that puts $1 in a jar over here, or buys a raffle ticket, or shows up to an event, goes on a 5K run, you know, $10, $20 at a time. And there's a lot of $20 donations that come, just, you know, we'll get them in the mail, people you don't expect to hear from, then all of a sudden, boom, there's a check. We had people, you know, just calling from, the other night, somebody handed me a $50 bill, said, so-and-so lives in Syracuse, and they couldn't make the fundraiser, but they wanted to donate, so here's $50 in their name. The thing that we do after we receive donations is we want to make sure each and every person gets a thank you card. Pauline's been doing this since day one. She sends each and every person that donates, whether it's $10, $1, $50, $1,000. We recently had an anonymous donor donate $5,000 just because, and he did not want to be thanked for it or noticed in any way.
Wow.
That was part of the agreement. He'll send the money if we don't say anything. And yeah, we were open to that. We can do that.
Yeah.
So each of those people get a thank you note, and there's no dollar on the thank you note. That $1 donation gets the same thing that the $5,000 guy did, and I would hate to even venture a guess on how many thank you cards Pauline has done over the
Well,
years.
that one there went out to whomever it may concern.
But each one is personalized, and you know, when people get that, they smile, and they're probably more apt to send in another check later on down the road for whatever reason.
Okay.
The other complicating factor for Pauline was, as some of the veterans pass away, they're listing Honor Flight as the beneficiary of donations. And boy, when you get, you know, 25, 30 donations from a funeral home, and each of those gets a thank you note, it's a huge task and a huge undertaking, and Pauline does a remarkable job of it. Sharon helped out this winter while Pauline was down in Florida taking a break.
Sharon.
We hope that doesn't happen very
Let's give a
often.
last name here. For Sharon who?
Sharon Perry.
Okay.
Yeah, Sharon and Pat Perry are both a big part of our operation. They again, many pieces and parts that they help in. Pat's actually our fundraising chairman, and has been out there for quite a while doing that. Does a great job at it, and doing good, because our fundraising efforts have been very successful. We got a lot of people doing things for us, which is kind of nice because it doesn't take a huge load on our volunteers. We don't have to wear them out.
Okay. I do want to get into the one we just had 3 days ago. Because I want to get into what a flight leader does, but before we do that, I want to get into this Larry Eber special event that he had. Today's the 23rd. He had this on the 20th.
Yeah.
And you know, the timing may not have been the greatest as far as getting people to be there, because it was during the school break. A lot of people were out of town. It was Holy Saturday. A lot of people have, you know, family and religious commitments and so on. So, but still an outstanding fundraising effort,
gosh.
wasn't it?
It was an experience to see, as a volunteer who does a lot of different fundraisers. To get to see somebody do something like this was a pleasure all on its own. Larry remarkable person, very dedicated to our veterans to begin with, and very dedicated to the honor flight. And he decided to put this on last year at campgrounds and fairs. Larry does a show, and he started telling people about honor flight, and he actually brings applications with him in case there's veterans in the crowd. But he had collected over $3,000 last year just in a donation jar for the honor flight. So we continued that with this big fundraiser on April 20th. And boy, I'll tell you, I've never seen anything so organized in all my life. Larry's a drill sergeant, and you can tell.
He was
And
organized.
he had everything right from the top to bottom. This is the program Larry put together. The first time we had a meeting that we were going to go over what needed to be done and what had to happen and who needs to be aware of what we're going to do. Like I say, I had never seen anything so laid out in all my life. Right down to the places we were going to go visit, the times everything was going to occur, the different businesses we were going to go through, all laid out by region, dedicated to a different person so we didn't cross paths. Just amazing, amazing work. Everything that you could think of to do with a fundraiser was in this book. To put that together alone is a feat.
And he's a pretty good singer, too.
And he's a very good singer. Yeah. The program he put together was just awesome. Between him, his entertaining, and Completely Stranded is a great comedy group. I'd go see them again in a minute. They're hilarious. And Larry threw in just the right amount of veteran songs and tributes in between everything, that the whole thing just flowed unbelievable. And the bottom line is he raised over $12,000 in
Holy
that
cow.
night.
Yeah.
Wow.
We had a special guitar was part of the program that we raffled off, and that guitar raised over, I think it was somewhere around $5,500 in raffle tickets just for that guitar. And it was a homemade one-off guitar that
One of a kind.
Larry and his son Chad had disassembled, put the Honor Flight logo on it, the 5 branches of the service on the back, and then put it all back together. And it was just a thing of beauty. We hated to see it go. We were hoping whoever won it, we offered them a cash prize instead of the guitar so we could keep it. But no, they took the guitar. So we hope he's going to use it. The guy lives down in Peru, and his son actually started playing guitar about a year ago. So we hope it's going to get used, and hey, we hope to see it somewhere someday.
Yeah, well, the type of thing you could also put in a showcase and just
Yeah.
leave there, you know.
That's gorgeous.
It was a work of art. It was absolutely beautiful. Like I say, we were heartbroken to see it go, but that's what happens when you raffle something off.
Yeah.
So yeah, great night all together. Again, all the volunteers, Larry's family and friends jumped in wholesale, and boy, we had more. I'd hate to guess how many raffle items were there. I know there was probably 100 plus
Tables
Yeah.
full,
on those tables, and probably 15 large items, all valued over $100 for a separate raffle, and then the guitar, and just a great night all together. And I think everybody that came was looking forward to next year already. Larry's going to make it an annual, and we hope to see it again because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he made the mistake of saying this is the first annual. You never do that.
Yeah, until after, then he can redecide. But no, he's so dedicated to our veterans that I think as much as it's work, it's hard work, and of course, you know, you don't always get the compliance with everybody involved that you hope to. But there's certain headaches that happen along the way. But he handled each one very well, and everything got done. And I don't think we could change a thing about the whole fundraiser. It was awesome.
Now, a flight leader, all the guy does is show up, they give him a baton, they give him a baton, and he walks in front of the group as they arrive at each monument.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Sits in
Something like
seat
that.
1A.
that's what a flight leader is, right?
Yep, yep.
So you haven't done any work yet, have you?
When's the flight? Oh, gotta love that snark.
Yeah, yeah,
As a
yeah.
flight leader, you've got to meet with every one of these people that's going on the flight, right?
Between the flight leader and the assistant flight leader, you know, we split up our flights between the guardians and, again, those are the volunteers with the veterans. We have 15 veterans, 15 guardians. Sometimes it's like cat herding through a tuna fish factory. But, you know, what we do is we do a lot of home visits or meet in a location that's convenient for the veterans. We go through their application to make sure that all the information on there was correct. We look at their licenses. I'll give you an example of, you know, one of the veterans, their license was about to expire. So by going through that information, you're able to check something so that their TSA experience is positive when you're building the flight manifest, when you're you know, looking at their medicine, you know, listings. You know, we've had and will continue to have individuals that have needed oxygen and stuff like that. So there's a lot of back-end paperwork, but the most rewarding part of it, without a doubt, is sitting down and doing the interviews and getting to hear the stories about why they enlisted, what it was like to be drafted, and also connecting, you know, their family members with some of these stories that may have never heard it before. And then working with members of the executive team and the other volunteers. There's another tier that goes into, you know, getting their shirts and their jackets prepared and their hats,
The
right size and right names and stuff.
Oh, boy.
So, you know, the two things that I'd like to say is, one, if Barrie ever approaches you to be a flight leader, require that he at least brings you up for Michigan's first. It's, you know, it's probably about, I don't know, maybe between 125, 150 volunteer hours of time, but it's very, very rewarding. And, you know, then of course the flight leader participates in the flight itself and goes down to DC. And then there's a number of activities and events that are follow-ups. I'm not going to ruin it in case a veteran gets to see the program, but we have a lot of involvement afterwards, and we celebrate them in a number of ways. And then, of course, Pauline is the queen of parades, and we have a lot of our veterans that we get involved in parades and other activities. So when you become a flight leader, you become part of that cohort as well, and it's a neat experience.
Yeah, so these people the veterans that are going on the flight with you aren't strangers at
No.
that point.
No.
You've met them all, you've been in
No.
their,
Yeah.
you know, may have been in some of their homes, and
Yeah.
they know you and you know them, so.
They become very close. They're not only friends, they're actually consider you family. They keep looking at that flight leader like he's the guy that got this done for me, and the appreciation is unbelievable. They'll never forget that. And the show of respect is always awesome after the end of the flight. It's just, they can't believe it. My phone is I think I've got room for one more voicemail to be left, because veterans called back after I was a flight leader and tell you what a great day they did, and I can't bring myself to
Get rid
erase
of
those. So sometimes, you know, you wanna keep those things, but I gotta do something
Well, you're gonna
different
have
soon.
to copy them onto something else.
Yeah.
And, you know, keep a permanent record,
That's
but not on your
way,
phone.
that's way over my head.
And the amount of, and the number of times that it was offered apple pie or tarts
Oh my
or,
gosh.
you know, lunch or, you know, because a lot of times when you go and you do your interview, you can be there for hours, and it's just, and the time just melts away. And one veteran on this flight, we've met several times, because I've just needed some different information and things like that, and each time he's like, oh, you know, just 20 minutes, and you know, it's been a couple hours, and it's been the most rewarding though,
Yeah.
because he'll say something, you know, and you just ask a question, and you kind of get down this, you know, this rabbit hole, and it's just really, really, really neat. So.
And as you mentioned, after they've been on the honor flight, it isn't, thanks for coming, we'll.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that's what
they're part of your
differentiates
family at
us.
that point on.
Absolutely, we're so proud of that we get the opportunity to do it. I mean, other hubs would love to do it. We stay in contact with other hubs across the country, especially the guys down in Syracuse, Hudson Valley. We're afforded that opportunity to do it, and we wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, we bring them to schools or in parades or, you know, benefits. They love getting together.
Uh-huh.
You know, they love
That's a-
talking, getting together.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
classmates, you know,
Yeah,
they're
it is,
Yep.
it
alumni.
is.
Oh, and that's
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
as you know, each year, at the end of the year, a yearbook is put together, and it's very similar to a high school yearbook. It's got all the people that were on the flights, and everything's separated by flight. All the photos are put in place. Pauline does that as well. And it's quite a lot of work to put that all together, and it's a lot of research and a lot of finding facts, and she does a great job at that. So each veteran has that book to take home with them, and it becomes a treasured memento that not only that veteran but that family will have forever.
Yeah, and another thing, unfortunately, you have to include in that yearbook are the ones that we've lost. And, you know, we've one in the paper yesterday, a good friend of mine that passed away, he and his brother were on the honor flight, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
Just, you know,
Perfect example there, you know, Bill and
Bill
Bob
Page,
both
Bill-
last
Bob
year got
Page.
involved with the honor flight, and you know, thank God they didn't wait till this year.
right?
There's another lost opportunity, so we always try to push, and sometimes, you know, we get cooperation, other times people don't see the urgency, but we've lived it so many times, and we've seen so many veterans that don't even make it to a flight that they're scheduled on,
Right.
that we really, that's the one thing we don't like, and we try everything not to let it happen.
We lost, what, 10 to 12 just this winter?
Yeah.
There's something really almost magical to see the veterans interact with one another, whether it be they coming back to see their friends off to a ceremony when they've already been on
They
a
do,
flight.
yeah.
But so I get coffee every morning, and every once in a while you'll see two of the veterans that will come in that are, you know, they're part of the Fraternal Order of Honor Flight now, and they've got their jackets on, and they'll be like, "What flight were you on?" And then all of a sudden, right, you know, even though that we've been doing this for a while, veterans will connect with one another, and that's why we encourage them to, you know, the jackets and the hats and stuff just aren't for the flight. We want them to wear those and become an ambassador for the program, where they encourage their friends. And that's actually how we've gotten some of the folks on flights.
Yep.
Is someone goes and one of their friends maybe doesn't want to fly, or, you know, doesn't feel like that you know, they should be honored in that way, and they go, well, if, you know, Eddie or Teddy or Susie or Harold or Trudy can go, you know, and it just kind of becomes that neat way to kind of link them into the program and get them going.
Yeah. Veterans dealing with veterans is far easier. There is a connection there. Of course, it's a natural thing to, you know, they're in a brotherhood that non-veterans don't understand, never will. So when a veteran says something to another veteran, it has a lot more impact than somebody even from an honor flight, if they don't expect it, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if they're in the same branch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know,
There's
the
still-
Marines get to
there's
pick
still
on the
some more
Navy.
territorial
and-
stuff in there.
you know,
Yeah.
no, how's that go? The Marines pick on the Navy, and everybody picks on the Air Force. It gets pretty competitive.
And when they get to the memorials, a lot of them will open up. You know, they've never said anything, you know, what happened to them or this or that, but when they get down there, they start talking and open up, and it's really great to hear them
Yeah.
when you get there. Yep.
So we can't overemphasize that you need veterans.
Yep.
Mhm.
This honor flight, and it started off with World War II, but, you know, any veteran right now is welcome. You may not be able to get on if you're in young and good health, you may not get on this year, but get on that list.
And that's where we're at. We've probably got a list of about 100 people now. Lately, you know, of course, the more publication we get and the fundraiser raise some awareness, so we'll get more applications from that. But we got about 100. So not everybody's gonna go this year. Anybody that does have an application in at this point right now is guaranteed to go next year. And then after that, we just have to see. It's all, you know, we do have a basis as the application is turned in, with the exception of age and illness.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
we
so,
try to be as fair as possible.
so there is a priority. If you're not on that list yet, and or your loved one isn't, there is a priority list there. If there's some kind of illness or age factor that
You know,
says
of
this
course,
person
World War
should be,
II,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
World
Yeah.
War II is obviously the,
yeah, they're on the top.
yeah.
Don't we have a 100-year-old going from
Yeah.
Vermont?
Yep.
He's
Actually,
100
it should be 101
Yeah, I
right
think
now.
it's- yeah, I
think he
Last
just had his
year we
birthday
talked to
a
him,
little
he
while
was
ago.
100.
Yep.
Yeah, because I saw his birth date,
Yeah.
and he's 101.
Yeah.
He'll be going on this
Yeah.
next flight.
Yeah. It's Yeah.
He was.
There's some amazing stories on this flight. There always are.
Absolutely. Every flight is unique in their own way.
Yeah.
You talk to any flight leader and they'll tell you that their flight is the best there ever was. And
Yeah.
that goes for me too. Pauline will all tell you that.
So where is your territory?
Huge.
Where's your do you have any boundaries? I don't-
No, it's usually there's a connection back to Plattsburgh somehow or the North Country. Shouldn't say just Plattsburgh, but we go all the way over to Ogdensburg. People that live in Ogdensburg actually have a choice. Syracuse Honor Flight is just south. We're over here on this side, so it's kind of there's no distinct boundaries. And we've taken veterans from Lake George, Glens Falls, Albany.
Yeah, Vermont.
There is a
Some
Patriot
Vermont.
Yeah.
flight. Vermont was kind of left in the cold. There is a New England honor flight all the way over in Boston. Not real convenient for most people in Vermont.
Somebody in St. Albans isn't very handy to.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So we decided a while back that we're gonna take Vermont veterans as well. It'd be easy to get overwhelmed. We don't wanna shut out our North Country routes. So we try to take one or two from each flight from Vermont. And we've been doing a pretty good job of getting most of them down there, so. It's a huge area, it's a large geographic zone, but it works well with us. We bring them in and we've worked with the local motels this year. The Best Western has stepped up as they did last year. And they give us rooms to begin with, and then if we need more rooms, they give us a very reasonable rate for those. So if it is a long haul for one of our veterans, they can come in here and stay Friday night. That way they're here for Saturday morning.
Well, I think even some of the Franklin County people were coming and spending the night.
Yeah, 'cause Messina, you get out that way, you're talking
Get up, just
almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So they'd have to leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning to get here on time. So we bring them in and put them up in a hotel, and it's a pretty good system.
Yeah, that was so great. When Gordy and I had heard about the Levi Oaks, we made sure to be there when they honored them there, and then talked to Elise Stefanik and said, "We got to get this guy in an honor flight. It's already in the works."
Yeah.
A code
Yeah.
talker, it's
Oh
just
my
amazing.
gosh.
Yeah.
Just, to be a one of a kind in the world is just, you don't have the opportunity to see that no matter what you're talking about, even a soda can. But to be a one of a kind in the world that's left, as Levi
Yeah.
was as a code talker. And the other thing, a lot of people didn't realize there was Mohawk code talkers.
Yeah,
So there's a little bit of awareness bringing out
Yeah.
through Levi there as well.
yeah. I think of Navajos and I think of the code talkers, but
Yep.
and
Yep.
we had it right in our own backyard.
Yep.
Just the.
No, very, boy, what a distinguished gentleman.
And then you mentioned earlier about the bikers that were there at the monument. What would this honor flight be without the bikers,
Oh,
huh?
my. And the
Totally
veterans
different.
love them. They love the motorcycles. They just,
No, there's so big in so many ways. It just wouldn't be the same without them. Of course, it all started with the combat vets way back, and they've been a part since day one. They still head up the majority of things.
And day one, I gotta tell you, was in Albany.
Yeah.
So they came here on a chilly morning.
Oh my gosh, what was it,
And rode those
35?
bikes, rode those bikes through the mountains to Albany.
Yep.
And we followed on a bus
Wow.
down there, and it just
And picked up more bikes all the
Oh,
way
yeah.
along the way.
yeah, well, we had one veteran that couldn't make it on the flight because he had problems. Remember the one we brought the coat to? Barry called me at church. He says, "Do you think you can set up a police car to meet us on the Oval so we can bring the jacket to," what was his name?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, last year,
Yeah.
and he couldn't go on the flight.
He couldn't go on the, Mr. Markel? Was it?
Marcel,
Marcel.
yeah.
Marcel,
Joe
okay.
Marcel.
So I said, okay, I'll go down and so I went to the police department and they, yeah, we'll have a car there. So Barry says, well, why don't you come too? We like some officers there. I got down there, there were at least 45 to 50 motorcycles, 2 city police cars, there was sheriff's department, there was a fire truck, there was to bring him his jacket. And,
Yeah.
and he was sitting, it was cold and he was sitting out, and his family had him out in front of the garage, and we got, oh, it was
my gosh.
unbelievable. And of course, the neighbors, all this comes up
What
with
did he
motorcycles.
do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, the police with their sirens and
And the
everything. Oh, it
motorcycles?
was unbelievable. You just call them and they just show up. It's unbelievable.
Their communication is,
Yeah.
the government could take note. 'Cause I'll tell you what,
I would-
those guys, within 15 minutes, and this all happened, I believe that the whole idea started about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I think
And
we
this was
ended up
2 in the
going there
afternoon.
at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with that many
Yeah, it was.
people and motorcycles and police cars all in place. So it was just a great show of effort. And those guys, here we are, the first flight is being sponsored by the Legion Riders out of Post 1619 in Plattsburgh. They did a bunch of fundraisers last year and plan on doing more this year, but they wrote us a check for $12,000 to sponsor that flight.
Wow.
So, and it's just, each group has done their own thing. The Hog Riders, the Harley Owners Group, recently did a bowling tournament for the second year in a row. They're up around $15,000 in donations, so they're gonna sponsor a flight down the road. And it's just all these groups that all add up. Each time, it blows you away on what actually occurs.
And you
And
can
there's so
depend
many
on 'em. It's
stories
just
that are
one,
just-
one little call, and I mean, they're
Oh, yeah.
there,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're really good, really good.
You can set your watch by them. They're so dependable, and we've got a guy that sets up all the escorts. Link does from the CVMA, does all the coordinating, and makes sure that every veteran has a group of bikes to pick them up that morning, along with the police escort, and bring them over to the Oval. And then last year, this whole Friday thing started. As we bringing in, we were talking about bringing the veterans into the hotels. Now they go pick them up and escort them in.
To the other side of the ferry, and then they come
So,
across the ferry, and then
Yeah.
the state
Oh,
police
wow.
pick them up
Yeah.
from here.
It could
with
be
the
Vermont,
motorcycles. Yeah.
Messina, they go every direction possible. Last year, they went to Utica and picked up a veteran.
Yeah.
And now that's a 6-hour motorcycle ride or
Yeah,
better.
That's,
And, they went down there just to escort them back on Friday. Link has set up things with the state police where we actually get a Vermont State Police escort once we pick up the veteran on the Vermont side.
Yeah.
Last year it happened, the first time the state policeman pulled up to the ticket booth at the ferry and said, "These guys are with me," and everybody went down, got in line, nobody paid a nickel for anything, there was nothing set up, this wasn't organized. Well, once they got on the boat, the captain comes down and says, "Hey, what are you guys doing? What makes you think you can do this?" And everybody just went, "We didn't know, we were just following the Vermont State Policeman." So we ended up, Link worked a contact to get in touch with the office at Lake Champlain Transportation. And we now just, that's all she asked was, "Please call ahead and let me know." Well, you're never gonna get charged, but just let me know if you
Right.
would. So now, as long as we keep the information lines open, LCT has done a great job of helping us out and allowing more people to be escorts. So it's quite a program.
we'll have to give them pirate hats or something, taking over the boat.
We got Shanghai. Yeah, it's a great program. Oh my gosh, some of the stuff they've done just, and they're out there at 5 o'clock in the morning heading to Standish or
Yeah.
Redford,
Yeah. Yeah, they just don't show up here at the airbase.
Oh, no.
They've been out there
No.
getting these people.
Yep,
Yeah.
and if you're taking the southern route, you might go to Port Henry and over to Westport and then back up to meet up here at the Oval eventually. It's just way out of their way, and they don't care if it's raining, snowing, dry, nice, cold,
Well,
doesn't matter.
They might care, but
They still do it.
But they're not coming. They will never not come. The dedication is just amazing.
it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's put the motorcyclists in a whole new part of my brain here.
Oh,
really
it's,
appreciate these
yeah,
guys.
you gotta get over the stereotype because,
the gangs and stuff. These aren't motorcycle gangs. These are
no, these are all great people.
Yeah.
I consider myself lucky to get to know a lot of them, get to meet
Yeah.
them, and unbelievable people. They'll give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah. Anything else that we haven't covered that you guys said we were gonna talk about today in the back of your minds? We get,
No, I just make one last push to encourage people to come out for the first flight.
May 18th?
May 18th, 7 o'clock, and we start right on
On
time.
time, definitely.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
get there early, and if you've never ever been to one of these flights, please come out. Please bring your kids. I mean, it's I think that's probably the biggest plea that I could put out there is if you and your family have never been or you've never brought your kids, please bring your kids.
You said something, kids, and I think of Washington DC. I think of those kids that greet the veterans there, and especially that one little girl who runs
Yeah.
up and down.
Oh
Her
my
picture was in the
gosh.
Press Republican, I think, this week.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, and there's
you
a
know,
whole nother story. There's so many stories
So much has
attached
to
to
be-
this honor flight.
You have to have that all worked out in DC. It's not just what's happening here.
But we don't do that.
Right.
That's all, we just tell them when we're coming,
Yeah, and then they
people
organize.
down there take care of all that, and they've got all the groups that come greet our veterans, and it's great to be in Dulles Airport. We didn't have that up at BWI, and now we're in the main terminal where the reception is just fantastic. Everything stops. The whole airport operation just stopped, and everybody is either shaking hands, hugging, or waving, and it's just a huge show of support. And that little girl you're talking about is, she runs alongside with that sign up that she loves our veterans. And after the third time she did it, we were down there last fall, and finally I said, she's got to be here with somebody. So we located her parents, and we've offered her to ride with us on the bus, her and her parents.
Yeah.
So this year, we're still gonna make her run. She's gotta get to the end of the terminal, but then we're gonna stop and let her and her parents on the bus. So we're so looking forward to that. She is such a treat to be around, and there's not a dry eye on that bus when they see her doing that. So, yeah, it's great that she gets to go with us and see the whole thing unfold.
Amazing. So anything that you wanted to bring up?
Like Mike said, if you haven't been to an honor flight, do yourself a favor. Don't do it for anybody else. How many things can you do where it doesn't cost you a nickel, and you can be a big help to show your support for the veterans, and
Yeah,
each
just
of
all you do
those.
is cheer and say, yay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the old, not everybody can be a hero. Some have to stand on the curb and clap as they go by. That's us.
Right.
We just try to show them the appreciation they have coming, and it's something you get a good feeling when you leave there. You felt like you've done something because you have. You've enhanced that veteran's life, and it's a one-time opportunity that they're never going to forget, and you're a part of it just by being there. Like I say, it doesn't cost you a nickel. It's so much fun, and most of the people that are at our send-offs are the people that have been there the time before. So once you go,
Yeah.
it's
You'll
very
be back.
addictive. I'll
Yeah.
give you that ahead of time. It's very addictive. You won't ever want to miss one.
Pauline?
Just, if you know any veterans out there, we're looking for them. Just get a hold of us, and we're looking for veterans to honor them. They deserve it.
Yeah. Don't wait till it's too late to get
No.
these veterans, get the names in here.
Exactly. Get them down here. And if there's
NC Honor
any
Flight.
any
.org.
information you need to know about Honor Flight, you just go on to the Hometown Cable
We got
website,
a few of them.
and you can look up any flight, any veteran that's been. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It's a huge resource for myself. Many times questions come up. What happened? What flight number did this happen? Who's this? I'll go back in, look up the video, watch it, and I get all my answers. So we can never thank you enough. It's not only a great statement for the people of the North Country, and the work you do is totally appreciated. I can guarantee you that. Thank you.
Proud to have been able to be on all 26 so far.
That's
And the parades, and the fundraisers, and
Oh,
the.
yeah.
Yeah, the
everything
parade.
else.
Yeah.
Memorial Day, you got to separate your veterans on Memorial Day because you got two parades, St.
Right.
Mary's and Shazy.
Yep. Always a tough call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do our best. That's all we can say, and not everything's perfect all the time, but we definitely try our best. That's for sure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank
Bob.
you very much.
you.
We've been talking about the North Country Honor Flight. The next flight, if you haven't caught on yet, is May 18th, 2019. And I want to thank Judy Castine for getting up early today before noon to run that camera for me.
As always.
And thanks for watching Hometown Cable.